Hey there, this is Ryan Kingsline, founder of ZBrush Workshops. Why do we study anatomy? What is the benefit to getting in and spending all of that time learning the terminology? Well, in my experience, the major benefit for studying anatomy has really been getting control over my sculpt. Now, I was a lot like you might be. I didn't really want to learn the terminology. I still resist the terminology. I don't want a bunch of guys speaking Latin telling me how to define things. I want to discover my own. I'm a sculptor. Sculptors are a different breed, you know. We want to see the world. We feel it with our hands. We're very involved, very engaged. And we don't really want people telling us how to see things. We want to learn to see it ourselves. But if you get in and you learn a few terms, you're going to have more control over your sculpt. That's the wall I ran into. Ran into this wall where it was an invisible ceiling. I couldn't see what was wrong with my sculpts. You can go back 3-4 years through YouTube and my posts at ZBrush Central, and you can see very clearly the growth that has happened and where I've kind of come from and where I've gone to. And a lot of that was by giving in and starting to study this anatomy, starting to improve my sculpt. When you study the anatomy, your goal is to be able to see through the model so that you can say, mentally take away the cheek fat and know what the skull is going to look like underneath, or have a sense of it. And if at all possible, sculpt the skull underneath so that you've got that knowledge. You need to be able to cut away the nose and know what one half of the nose looks like. You need to be able to know, what does where's the nostril end up and how does that relate to the skull? Is there a relation? Is there not? Little things like having the canine teeth help to define the plane change from the front to the side of the face is something you only learn when you study anatomy. And knowing it puts you in control. Also, studying the orbit of the eye, or how does the eyeball fit into the orbit of the eye. All of that stuff is difficult unless you get in there and start to study. And that's what I've broken down in this Anatomy of the Face workshop. I've taken everything possible that I've learned and put it all into about 5.5 hours. Each one of the lectures about 15-20 minutes. So there's 28 chapters that cover a whole bunch of things. And what it's really doing is allowing me to go fast. Now, when you start out and you're starting to learn these things, you have to approach things slowly. You have to do things like come in with a sphere and then chop off a little corner of the back, trying to be as precise as you can, move this stuff up, and then go through this process that I've demoed many times, and it's on the wiki, ZBrush wiki that I put together a while ago. They're still running that, which is great. I think Marcus Civis is now handling most of that documentation, and that guy is one smart dude. So here we are, just establishing some basic fundamentals. The idea is to progress slowly and methodically so we know where to fix things, how to adjust, and you as the learner begin to tackle complexity with a sense of control. So this is a very simple wedge shape that I'm creating here, and like I said, this is out and about all over the place. But what's really important is when you can take this and you start to fly. So this video I'm showing right now shows the process from starting from scratch, going towards this Nordic face. And what I'm doing is starting out simple, just like I did before with the sphere, and I'm quickly identifying the key characteristics that are going to give this the look and feel that I want. And being able to establish those core characteristics is not a natural thing. You have to learn how to respond quickly. So let's take a look at the final model, or at least the final block in that we got for that model. And let's go about there. This is roughly where we started, or actually this is what I would say is probably about stage 3 of that whole process. Let's look at this for a moment. Let me unpack what I've done here. So you have the glabella, and you have a nice clean plane happening in there. You also have overhang. You have the frontal sphenoidal process, the lacrimal, the frontal process of the maxilla. You know, all of these things are pieced in here. Side of the nose. We've roughed in the nostrils. You see how simple they are? It's just a down plane. Okay, and then another side plane. Then I have simplified what the plastic surgeons call the facet and the tip defining point, and just created a very simple set of geometry there. I have been able to take the nodule at the side of the mouth, the separate lips, as well as the separate portions of the lip. The orbicularis oris has the red lip portion, it's got the outer portion, and then knowing how these fibers behave, having a sense of all that stuff is all stuff I cover in the workshop. And I'm just giving you just a taste of it now. Now let's move forward to the sculpt. And here's what I would consider to be a finished rough first draft, let's say. And this whole thing's done, I think it was done in like 45 minutes or so or less. And being able to work really fast is one of the advantages that I now have, having studied the anatomy, because now I know what to look for, and I know how to create complex forms in as simple a way as possible. So for example, I'll be reviewing our students' work in the master class and at ZBrush workshops, and one of the things that we always mix up is in the inner eye area. So understanding how these planes interact and what's really going on there is quite difficult. And unless you know about things like the lacrimal bone, you know, and you don't get that in most anatomy texts. You have to go into Gray's Anatomy to get it. But if you don't get that, then you're going to be missing something. You know, in finding the lacrimal bone, it's actually buried deeper than what I just drew. It's buried all behind that caruncula. That really helped me define the inner eye and helped provide the information necessary for me to be able to block in these things quickly and improve my realism. So make sure you check out our Anatomy of the Face workshop page. Make sure you sign up for our newsletter. Stay up to date for what we got going on. I'll keep you up to date with little tidbits, tips, and tricks. And good luck with your sculpting.